Good morning. How's everybody doing today? All right. We unfortunately getting an up open here, but one that seems to be fading. Good morning. There was a couple of real disasters yesterday. With not a couple, quite a few stocks that got really beaten down. Apple was one, and in a short period of time, it's gone from new all-time highs and everything was wonderful to a break below its 20, its 50, its neckline, and down to the 200 period moving average on the daily time frame. And is that going to hold? Maybe it does for the day, possibly. But it would a drop like that, it's not going to go back up in the short term anyway. It needs to go through a rebuilding process, and it's even lower this morning. Interesting, kind of a lot of things were a bit higher than that, and even they falling back. But from what I was looking at, a few others, while they were falling back, they were still above yesterday's low, where this is breaking lower here. So you got to respect the 200-day on the daily chart in a big stock like this, that buyers are going to step up there. We'll see what the reaction is to it. But, it really couldn't hold the 50 very well, just kind of sliced back and forth through it. And then, of course, the gap down and then the continuation. So a big decline in a relatively short period of time. There really isn't much support. There's that unfilled gap over there to the left. So I think this area down here is a probable point where buyers would step up with more confidence, and then we'll just have to see. I mean, so I'm looking at this and thinking to myself, the scenario of the Qs potentially forming this head and shoulders bottom, and they're up a little bit here. So if that is going to play out, this is going to take a few days probably to really see whether this can do it. And so we've got things like this, the midterm elections being over, but what's going down here in Florida is just absolutely crazy. If those two positions are lost to Democrats, and that woman in Arizona that they thought was going to be in the Senate seat, I think things could maybe get even more ugly. I don't really want to pay too much attention to news and focus on the what's happening here on the charts. But right now, we don't really have a pattern. I've got a possible setup here that, I think could set up here, but we shall see how this actually plays out. So I still think we're going to need a few days before anything meaningful can be considered on the long side. As it comes down to support, you see the unfilled gap down here, which it just came down to just barely touch yesterday. And that's where it started to stabilize, but it just couldn't get off the mat once it got down there yesterday. Several attempts, there was a little bit of a move up, and it, we actually took a position in it and trail stopped it and got stopped out with, I think, a little tiny loss at the time. And, it couldn't get going. So at that point, it was like, okay, you had your shot. The setup was there. It had a couple of bottoming tail bars on the hourly chart. It was extended. And a lot of days that works just great. And it didn't yesterday. And just kind of a message of the extent of the selling at this time, and that sellers had control all day. And this little gap up that we see here, prices come in. So on the hourly chart, when we see a drop like this, regardless of what it is, and we're anticipating a turn, we look to the hourly chart as our longer term intraday time frame, looking for the beginnings of stabilization and a bottoming process. So the grayer area, that's the overnight trading. So just disregarding that for a moment, this is the kind of information that we would be looking for as to a potential bottom, meaning, you had a little sideways consolidation, prices broke down below it, which suggested it would keep going, yet prices gapped up, and so far they're holding in this area of price resistance. And that is always bullish price action, but it's got to continue to hold and then, of course, eventually start to move up from here. It's early, so we'll see what's going to happen here at the open as far as that goes. I always have to keep switching this back and forth to get this to move, so it always takes me a few seconds to switch. Spiders look pretty much the same. They're coming into the support here. They had the big down day yesterday. And a lot of times these wide range bars are followed by consolidation days. So even if we get the consolidation day today, it doesn't mean ultimately it'll turn back up again. Usually, ideally having 2 to 3 days of back and forth and maybe in a last attempt to spike lower that doesn't follow through is ideal. We'll be watching to see if that happens. And we did the Qs. So here we have the Russell. It's the same story. The patterns are pretty much the same across the board, except for really the Dow, which really played catch up yesterday and it getting clobbered even worse because it moved higher than the others did. So looking at these daily charts, what you would have noticed was the other markets were in the area of this swing high or even below it. And the Dow went alone, pushing up here. This was the result day, or this was the election day, and this was the next day. It gapped up and we had the big rally. And now it gave that all back. And last week, the other markets gave it back on Friday, and the Dow actually held up. So, see, they all broke below the breakout bar, the rally day, and the transports did as well, just barely. And then they followed down to the downside yesterday. And so there's the Dow with the big down day coming into this little section of overlapping bars and support here. So all of these markets are in the area where they would need to hold to start to form some type of a bottom. We'll see if that begins to play out and what's going to happen here. Kind of tough imagining, Apple stabilizes, that'll help. But there was a lot of damage done yesterday. Netflix coming down here to retest this low. Amazon down below the rally day. So a lot of these stocks and markets, they have to stabilize in their areas that they're testing here or go a bit lower. In other words, it's going to be another tough day, I think, for us as far as, waiting for setups. Well, the waiting part isn't the tough part because we know what we're dealing with. What's tough is, having them actually set up before we can put on trades with confidence, especially these spread trades where we need some kind of definitive reversal. And after, scanning, I don't know how many stocks yesterday, I come across this that was like, what's up here? The appearance of free money, or is it a trap with the credit spread above this high here? Dan will go over it, but I was like amazed. I looked at it 3 times to say, am I looking at this right? Because it just seemed odd and earnings weren't coming out. So, and it's actually down here pre-market, which is fantastic. This was a trade for 4 days. So it's like, if you can find those every day, it would be option trading heaven. So we don't find them every day, depending on the market environment. They tend to be feast or famine. The ones that are that good anyway. So we got the S&Ps testing here, wide range bar. That's not what it's supposed to do. Breaking down below the low of a wide range bar. We want it to stay in the upper half. It's into some support here, getting a little stabilization. We'll see if it holds. And look, I always look at charts and say, what does this tell me? And what is the other scenario? So one scenario being, and I don't like this one so much for a head and shoulders type of pattern because of the depth of this retracement here. This could turn into stabilization and a measured move lower. We'll just have to see. Almost $10 per day. Well, that depends on how you view that as far as it being a problem, George. If you're an intraday trader, stocks with average true ranges of $10 per day are fantastic. But the fact that was, having such an ugly day and to still find something with premium above resistance, the discussion was, what's the probability of this? Well, I mean, I found it yesterday. I was like, I couldn't believe what I saw. Oh, this going above 372.50 in the next 3 days now. I mean, it seems virtually impossible, but I mean, virtually, some miracle, some news coming out. And that's always the issue with these things is news can really destroy it. But there's no earnings and the market's negative for the most part. So we'll see how it plays out. Qs, same story, but deeper retracement here. We'll see if it begins to hold. This certainly is not the kind of pattern to suggest a high probability tradable low yet. Waiting for that. Dow, same thing. Showed relative strength, so where it's coming down to is going to be above, and the eyes will be watching to see if this can hold the 200 MA here. It's went up through the 50, came back down through the 50, so pretty crazy, up and down moves going on. Bonds just stabilizing a bit here. Oil crushed, and just amazingly. What did I read this morning that Trump asking Saudi Arabia don't cut production? And that is, you would think it could be collapsing further, but maybe that's already baked into the cake, as it said.
Hey, Greg, I was cleaning up emails this morning, and one came in yesterday from a viewer, and he says, hey, Dan, oil has to reverse here, doesn't it? What's your response to that? I obviously gave him mine.
Well, he worded it wrong, but it's, he's giving his strong belief, just out of probably disbelief is how far it fell so fast. So, you would think coming down here and falling as far as it did, that it would have some kind of reversal. But, I mean, we look at the technicals and down, wide range bar. I mean, it's not a giant wide range bar. And this one here was kind of like a warning sign, because, what we say about wide range bars, we typically, when it's been a bull market, so we look at green ones and we say, hey, I want to see it stay in the upper half. Well, here was a big, ugly red one after dropping, and it stayed in the lower half and then rolled back over again. So from a bearish point of view, this did exactly what it was supposed to. And when it fell into the void, well, it just kept going.
Yep.
So now it's at this prior low here, which started a significant move higher. So, based on that move and a wide range bar yesterday, the odds suggest stabilization here, but have to turn around. Yeah. No, but they did fall a lot. I looked at that the other day, George. They have fallen a lot. And so they usually do not fall as fast. If I can remember, UGS is the symbol? No, I forget what the symbol is for the ETF. Yeah, percentage-wise. Well, maybe we'll see $2 premium at the pumps. Who the hell knows? That's natural gas. I forget what it is. Yeah. I've seen that. So let it go up, and you'll see how fast the price of gas will change within a day or two at the pump. Yeah. Well, it's a pretty significant drop. Anyway. And gold back down to the lows. Getting there. And maybe part of the problem, besides just bearish market environment, the dollar is going up, euro keeps going down. So strong dollar does have some negative effects. And of course, one of the thoughts that came to mind was, Goldman Sachs having been an underperformer within the sector, because I have to watch my bias, because of course I'm looking for this bottom to shape up as far as this head and shoulders, seasonality, the end of year rally, the internals, so on and so forth. And maybe this Goldman Sachs news is a positive. I mean, whatever they're involved in, this over leveraged situation, and, it collapsing yesterday. Whereas people had to know about this, and now it's on the front page. So maybe, okay, the news is now out. Maybe the worst is over as far as that goes. So we'll see. Until we actually see a powerful price pattern reversal that we recognize from the past, we look for different reasons to validate our bias. But ultimately, as we say, price is king, and whatever these news items are looking to support what I want to happen doesn't really mean a whole heck of a lot unless the price patterns actually turn around and it happens. So we'll see how it plays out in the next day or two. All yours, Dan.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Open positions, we don't have many. Here's Greg's Boeing call spread gapping down here pre-market. So Greg, tell me if you want to give it more room. I sent an adjustment, half 10-minute high, and typically we do 30-minute high on the back half. I said, let's give it an hour high. I mean, we could just leave it over yesterday's high and play it by ear since it expires Friday, but it's your call. C block, we have a short equity yesterday. Creed did not hit, which is fine. Cold, we're watching on a pullback, didn't hit. AAOI didn't hit. We purposely made it over Friday's high. Duke put spread. It didn't hit our desired minimum, so I'm just going to leave that one. It's fine for now. Visa, we have a put spread. Deep retracement, but it's far away, and our stop is under 138. That's still holding. And Lulu, we have a call spread, and I tighten the stop over Friday's high, and we're trying to bid 4 cents as our target to close. And that's it there. Let's look at some gappers and earnings. YGYI. Hey, Alex. Now, this one, it kind of looked like a marijuana stock to me. It looked almost identical. And so I looked it up, and it said, no, consumer foods, packaging foods. But whatever, it's gapping down here, no pattern. Hua, gapping up to 20 bucks. 20 bucks is up here. It's gapping resistance, nothing to do. GLBS. This looks like one of those container ship companies, the way it trades, gapping up to 10 bucks way up here. We need a pullback, nothing to do now. Very gapping up to 8 bucks or so, which is a bullish gap here, but to a prior high. Nothing to do now. Tilray had earnings, so we might get some activity in the marijuana patch. Oh, look at Home Depot here. I added 3 thumbnails here. Home Depot here, upper right, had earnings, was up nicely, and look at it tanking right now, pre-market. Here's my Tilray in the bottom right. Was up, Now nothing. I was looking at his brother Kron is down. The sector, Mike Julia down. Nothing to do in that sector. Vodafone, 20 bucks. It's a bullish gap at ADR. I don't like those. That was earnings. Tyson had earnings. It's getting clocked here, 57.5 bucks. Wow, that's like nasty gap breakdown on old Tyson Foods. Wow. I'm going to put him here in that thumbnail. There's the Home Depot, Kron, Boeing we talked about, BBY got a downgrade. Kramer said, I was listening to him, he said BBY got a downgrade. NVIDIA, he said, got an upgrade. That's a bullish pre-market. That just looking at this 15-minute chart, downtrend, sideways trend, little breakdown bar here into the close, pre-market gapping over this major resistance. So I'm going to put that in well, I have it in a thumbnail right here in the middle. That's a candidate for a day trade. Newer, I can't tell where it's gapping. Boyle, this was carryover from yesterday. It's chasing now, nothing to do. That's oil. It's tough. Not oil. It's natural gas. It's tough to trade. Mighty Mo got smacked yesterday. Nothing to do. I'm pruning right now. Duke. These two power companies in California from the fires. Now, remember yesterday morning, we were stalking these, and I said, let's keep the horrific news out of trading opportunities. My God, look at that tail. I have no idea how that happened, nor do I care, but it was on our long watch list as a Climo in real time. Bison gapping up a little bit, but that is, this is a picture of momentum down, trying to swim up a creek that's flowing 15 miles against you. That is swimming upstream right there. We looked at these. Adobe stopped out yesterday. Oracle, we stopped out at our last third at a profit. Light disaster gap yesterday. Nothing to do. Another utility, California utility. AAP 182. Yep. Wow, that's a massive gap. Now see, that one's gapping too big for me. But watch it, sure. And look at this weekly. Look at this trading range on the weekly, and it's a decisive gap over that. I'll just put him here in this minder. Apple was in pain this morning, still nasty downtrend under 192. There's no reversal. We gotta watch them. Let's check out the other FANGs. 142. Relatively flat, but at least it's testing this prior low. So what we would be looking for now to take any bullish position in this, surely not taking a bearish, it's too extended. But for a bullish reversal on Facebook, we want what we call a potent, a big, we want a big, confident reversal around this prior low. So it's just total watch right now. Tesla was holding strong. You could see the weekly resistance area. So this is a bear call spread candidate now. Netflix, nothing to do. Had a breakout failure right here. Nothing to do. Amazon, nothing to do. But it's like it's trying to shape up here on the 15-minute chart. You just don't have a great price void. But for a day trade, maybe 30-minute high, I like the gap up deep into resistance, and it's holding. It's holding a higher level of support. Finally, Google, same. A couple more from yesterday. BTI, that's tobacco, nothing. APTI, that's a buyout. Overstock was on our short watch list. STI was on our long watch list. It has to break out. BHC, we're wanting a pullback here because of the bullish monthly charts. Ulta was on our long watch list. It's holding relative strength. Look, for that to close green yesterday, in that afternoon shellacking, that's relative strength. This one we also have on our long watch list for a pullback. It's not ready, but if we get a turn on the 15 and hourly, here's a marijuana stock where we did a put spread and it stopped us out. It's just a mess. This was on my long watch list. It's not ready. WIGME was on my long watch list. Vert Financial, that's turned into a mess. You're gone. Ka is on my long watch list. I like the, the daily and weekly. Tesla, we looked at. ABC, marijuana stock. Twilio, a mess. VCell, this was on my long watch list because of this